The Rams' second preseason game is officially in the books, and the Rams won pretty dominantly today by a score of 34-0 over the New Orleans Saints. But as I've talked about before, it's not really about who wins or loses the preseason game, it's about taking a deeper look at the roster bubble guys, of the position battle guys. And we got to see a lot of that today. We got some good standout performances. I'm going to be recapping the guys that really stood out to me, guys to keep my eyes on, but definitely let me know in the comments down below who really stood out to you, who impressed you most. I want to hear from you guys for sure. Oh, and while you're at it, if you guys could just drop a like on this video, it's free and it just pushes it out to other Rams fans just like you guys. As is the norm, we are going to begin by talking about the QB2 battle, something we've been keeping our eyes on very closely throughout training camp and preseason. I think one of the biggest things that was different from this week's preseason game to last week's was the way the Rams handled their quarterback reps and the distribution between Ty Simpson and Stetson Bennett. As we know, last week Stetson Bennett got 2 drives and then it was the Ty Simpson show in Arrowhead. This week, it was very different. We had Stetson Bennett get the first half reps and then Ty Simpson get the second half reps. So how did Stetson Bennett look this week? Well, I think first off, it really did help him just from a rhythm perspective to be able to play the entire first half. I think especially from the quarterback position, rhythm is a very important thing. And last week going into the game, knowing he's only going to get a drive or 2 in Arrowhead, I think that does affect things, whether it be just from a nerves perspective or just playing a little bit more tight, just knowing you're not going to be out there that long. You may try to force some things. So I think it did help Stetson Bennett to be able to know, okay, going into this game, I have the entire first half to get in a rhythm, get settled in. And I think he did look pretty good, pretty settled in, and pretty at ease at running this offense. The Rams did do a lot of their play action bootleg levels, concepts, stuff that we've seen Stetson Bennett run with his time with the Rams, and that is definitely his bread and butter. I think that play action bootleg level concept kind of stuff is probably the best suited strength for Stetson Bennett in this offense, and if he were to come in as a backup or come in for an injured Stafford, I think the Rams offense would look very similar to like a 2018 Jared Goff kind of offense, relying on that run game, that play action bootleg, because that is something he does well. He didn't have any passing touchdowns today, but he did throw the football around pretty well today. A lot of different kinds of throws, and on those play action concepts where he was rolling out, you saw him run for 2 touchdowns. So really, not really much to complain about for a backup quarterback. You obviously know that there's a ceiling there, but I did like to be able to see more reps from Stetson Bennett this week just to see how he could handle the offense. He did look comfortable. He did miss some throws here and there, but overall I was pretty impressed with the product from Stetson Bennett, and it did make me feel more comfortable of like, okay, if the Rams do trust this guy because he's been in their offense longer, he's been in the NFL longer, just time on task versus Ty Simpson, I can feel more comfortable going into a game of, okay, if the Rams just lean into their run game, have a play action styled offense similar to that Jared Goff 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020 style offense, that would be something I think Stetson Bennett could run pretty well. And having those legs definitely does help when you do those kind of play action concepts. As we saw today, him being able to run in and be mobile definitely does help for a guy like him. So overall, pretty impressed with what Stetson Bennett was able to do today. Made a couple different kinds of throws, a deep one to Tyler Scott, just barely missed on that one. Had plenty of arm for it, and then he even had a nice throw to, I'm trying to remember who the receiver was at this point, but it was between the cover 2 flat defender and the safety, layered it nicely there too. So good growth there from Stetson Bennett, and we'll see how this quarterback 2 position continues to go for the Rams in preseason. And obviously Ty Simpson did start the second half of this game, and I would say this game looked a lot different for Ty Simpson than last week. Not only just from a numbers perspective, but also just a game flow and feel perspective. It just felt a lot different than last week for Ty Simpson, which I was kind of expecting. It's nothing to panic about, but there wasn't really a lot of jaw-dropping things that you saw from him. There also just wasn't a lot of opportunity for him. Felt like the Rams did do a lot of running concepts and shorter quick pass concepts with him. Not a lot of long drives for him to be able to really showcase what he could do. But overall, I thought he looked pretty comfortable. Did spray a few footballs this week, not quite as pinpoint accurate as we did see last week, but I think he was still just kind of getting in a rhythm of things. I was also impressed with wide receiver Mario Williams. This is somebody from both last week and this week that has impressed me. I think the Rams just really trust him. You saw him get that early jet sweep. You also saw him get a couple really early targets on that first drive. And as somebody who's just very consistent, reliable, I think he also has just a really good feel of zones and sitting in the right spot in zones on choice routes. And when he gets the ball in his hands, he's a very smooth runner, gets a lot of yards after catch. And so number 81, Mario Williams, another guy that I didn't really expect expect to have a good preseason. Nothing against him, I just really wasn't keeping my eyes on him, but he continues to turn my head. It seems like very much an NFL pro and somebody continue to keep our eyes on as Rams fans. Another guy that impressed me was edge rusher Wesley Bailey, number 47. This is a guy I was really keeping my eyes on heading into preseason just because there was word that he was getting #1 reps with the Rams in training camp, and he was somebody as a UDFA that's really turning heads for the Rams. Feels like they have one of these guys every year, but watched him do really well in the Kansas City game, but this game was definitely another step forward for him, getting a sack, getting a forced fumble, and he disrupted the pocket multiple times, whether it be from a bull rush or a bull rush to a swim move. Definitely impressed with what Wesley Bailey could do, and I'd be pretty shocked if he didn't make the Rams roster with the kind of impact he's making. I think he would be below Josiah Stewart, below Des Johnson for where he is right now, but he's definitely showing out in preseason, and there's a reason that the Rams really like this guy. I was also impressed with running back Jordan Waters. This is both from last week what he did to this week. I think he just has really good vision, a really good feel for the game when it comes to setting up his blockers, but also just getting the most out of every run. It doesn't really feel like he has negative runs, and if he gets met at the line of scrimmage, he's going to grind and get a couple of yards if he needs to. So overall, Jordan Waters continues to impress me. He's definitely been better than what I expected coming into this preseason, and I hope he can carve out a role, whether that's on special teams with the Rams or somewhere else. He's definitely a guy that's been impressing me, and somebody who we should continue to keep our eyes on. Does he get more reps here in this third preseason game for sure? Wide receiver CJ Daniels also impressed me. I think this is the kind of performance us Rams fans were expecting a week ago, but hey, better late than never, I guess. Just definitely very consistent, very reliable, definitely a very good hands catcher as we were expecting heading into training camp and preseason. We knew that he was a guy who could get those back shoulder balls and is just very reliable as a good safety blanket kind of option. Whether it was Ty Simpson or Stetson Bennett, he was relied upon a lot. Definitely nothing super flashy about his game other than those crazy 50-50 back shoulder balls, and I think the body control definitely really impresses me about him, and so we saw that early on with that Stetson Bennett throw. I still think he caught that one, but I guess we're going to have to wait and see for another opportunity like that. But yeah, CJ Daniels was very consistent, was always there when you needed him, and a very good hands catcher. I'm excited to see the kind of growth that he's able to have as games go on. Also got to shout out DB Alex Cook on that crazy 100-yard pick six. Really good vision on that one. Didn't have a ton of plays all throughout the game from what I saw personally, but got to shout out that 100-yard pick six. That was really exciting. And then also just some guys that stood out to me that did not play in this game, which is always a good sign as Rams fans, is okay, if these guys aren't playing, that probably means that they're safe to make a roster and that they've put in enough work here. Xavier Smith was one of those guys. We didn't see him returning any punts this week like he did a week ago. We didn't see him take any offensive reps. He was just fully in sideline gear. So that's a good sign for Xavier Smith that he's done enough to be able to make this team to continue to be the returner that the Rams have seen enough from him. Even Des Johnson, he played last week off of the edge. Didn't see him at all this week, so that's a good sign for him and his status for the roster, as well as Sean Dolak, a guy who was thrown in there that might play. He was also in street clothes. And you even saw Ronnie Rivers, again, for another week in a row, at running back. I thought there was a chance maybe that he was going to play this week with how good the Rams running backs looked a week ago. But Ronnie Rivers was still in street clothes. It still shows that the Rams trust him and that they really like him. And I would expect to see him on the 53-man roster without getting any of these reps here in preseason. And I will say it is hard to evaluate the negatives of a preseason game when you've only watched it once. You haven't gone back to watch the All-22 or just rewatch the game again. So I guess you could throw maybe a Laurel Murchison in there on the defensive line. He really was in there for a lot of the game, which was surprising to me, but I guess the Rams have a good defensive line group, so maybe nothing really crazy to look into for him. Dean Connors didn't look as good this week, but it's also the fact that Jarquez really got a lot of the reps. Jordan Waters got a lot of the reps. Didn't see a lot of Dean Connors, so maybe that's a good sign, maybe it's a bad sign, but didn't look as good as last week. That's just by virtue of not getting as many snaps. Cam Lampkin, too, is somebody I was expecting to see more from in this preseason, just from what we heard out of camp. Not that he did anything terrible today, but just nothing that crazy stood out to me. But definitely let me know your preseason takeaways down below in the comments down below. I appreciate you guys watching this video. Please leave a like on it and subscribe because I make Rams content all the time. Hope you guys have a great day, though. Horns up and God bless.